Hello and welcome to this edition of the Nate State Show this January 12th, 2026. We are live and broadcasting all over the YouTube airwaves. Proud to be here, proud to be ready, proud to be doing this next show here on this Monday. And let's just dive in here. If you're not subscribed, that's okay. We'd love it if you subscribe. Obviously, your choice. Hey, if you want to, or if you don't want to, you're cool. You're an adult. Go ahead. But let's dive into this college basketball slate. Didn't have a lot doing tonight. Some slaction. Poor Mississippi Valley State continues to lose. The Devils. Oh well. But as we dive into the show, let's kind of touch on some of these big old matchups here tomorrow. Let's lead off with the 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific game between the University of Virginia at Louisville. These two teams are right next to each other on KenPom. Virginia is ranked 15th, Louisville 16th. The Cardinals come in sporting a 1-1 record in the last two games, a loss at home versus Duke, and then narrowly defeated Boston College on Saturday. The final score looked a little better, but they trailed by 8 in the second half, which is bad news because Boston College, by JBR bracketology, has already been eliminated. They're not a very good team at all. This will be the end of the Grant Earl era, almost certainly, in Chestnut Hill. So the fact that Louisville, kind of hung up with them is certainly troubling. This will be the end of the Grant Earl era, almost certainly, in Chestnut Hill. So the fact that Louisville, kind of hung up with them is certainly troubling. Alright, let's try this now. So the Grant Earl era obviously hasn't gone the best in Boston College. Sometimes they hang with some teams like the Louisville Cardinals. And so the question becomes now, is Louisville actually the 16th best ranked team in the country, or have we inflated their non-conference results a little bit? Obviously, they beat Kentucky at home, which we all thought was an impressive win at the time. Now, maybe not as much. We all thought their wins in like the Players era were good. Now, not as much as we just take a brief look here at the Louisville basketball schedule. It's been a struggle. It's been recently. Even if they've gotten wins, they haven't exactly played to their standard. Now the ACC is a lot tougher this year. It's gonna be harder for Louisville to get wins. That win against there's the road win with Cincinnati, the road win at Indiana. Not as impressive anymore. Indiana might be a fringe tournament team. Cincinnati, not a tournament team whatsoever. Lost to Arkansas. The beating Memphis. Memphis isn't great. So Louisville has struggled. Obviously lost to Stanford. Can't be doing that. It's Stanford. Louisville struggled a little bit. This is the real litmus test here tonight for Louisville. If they can, at home, beat Virginia, that brings a little bit of validation to Pat Kelsey's squad. Unfortunately for them, Virginia's a very tough out. Even if Jakari White wasn't to play, Virginia still has 7 guys that can beat you. And that's tough. That level of depth, that level of intensity throughout a 40-minute game is tough, and it travels well. So the issue now becomes, does Louisville have the tools to be able to stop Virginia for a 40-minute game? I would maintain they don't. I would also maintain that Virginia doesn't exactly lose against Louisville, including in the Young Center. Even when Virginia has had worse historical teams, they still beat Louisville. Louisville just can't really get over the hump against Virginia. So that's why I would lean Virginia. I don't exactly know what the spread is in this game, but even with the spread, I would lean Virginia here. Virginia only has 2 losses this year. That they lost to Butler in the non-conference, which, albeit isn't a great loss, but they were missing some pieces that game, and they were still working things out. And then the road loss at their rivals, Virginia Tech. Now, Lane Stanton is a tough stadium to play, tough arena to play in for about any team, and that was a 3 overtime loss, so that's a little bit excusable in my book. Virginia needs to prove their mettle, but Louisville needs to prove it more, in my opinion. Virginia's a fringe top 4 seed here. Most bracketologists have them as a 5 seed. Important game for Virginia. Outsized important game for Louisville. I do think Virginia comes away with the road dub, and maybe even looks impressive in it. Moving on, we're gonna touch on Kansas and Seton Hall. Now, Seton Hall is only ranked 43rd in the KenPom, so we're gonna check our audio here. So Seton Hall is 43rd in the country in the KenPom rankings. Um, that's not the best, obviously, because UConn is 9. But this is a home game for the Pirates. This is the game Seton Hall, despite being dreadful last year, beat UConn in this spot. This is almost, I wouldn't say it's a trap game, to be fair to UConn, because there are a lot of trap games in a relatively weak Big East this year. But UConn's not going to have too many chances here against fringe tournament teams in the lead up to the tournament, bubble teams fighting for their lives. This might be their first real test on the road versus one of those fighting for their life teams. Now, it's a Dan Hurley coached team. They could ace it. But there is a reality. There is a flip side where Seton Hall is clearly going to come out. They're going to be the better squad. They're going to hit the shots. And they're going to test UConn, just as Providence tested UConn just this past week. So for Connecticut to come out and strongly win this game, they're going to need to play really, really good first half and second half offense. UConn's issue is they haven't been able to put up a 40-minute performance very well so far. Now, obviously, this can change on a game-to-game basis. Again, we trust their coach. Again, we trust Caravan, and UConn has the better talent. But Holloway knows how to coach an upset. He knows how to coach a scrappy, smaller team, and he's gonna have home crowd behind him. I would see Seton Hall playing scrappy here at home. I would see Seton Hall keeping it close. I could see Seton Hall winning this game. I think UConn needs to be. I'm not sure how much of an upset this would be, but UConn needs to be on full alert, and they need to bring their A game. Because if UConn doesn't bring their A game, the bottom line is they don't go to Seton Hall and win. I'm just the bottom line in the Big East this season. There's only going to be 4 to 5 teams this year who are even probably good enough to be in tournament discussion. This is one of them. You already played overtime against a Providence team that won't be in that tournament discussion. So, Connecticut and UConn needs to bring their A game, and they're gonna have to score points to win, because Seton Hall's way that they make this win is they need to. Well, honestly, they need to constrict possessions, and get offensive rebounds. That is how Seton Hall wins the game. That's the script they need to follow. And, I think Shaheen Holloway can coach his guys to be able to do that and come away with a big Big East win. So now we move on to our third Big Tuesday game, our third and final Big Tuesday game. The Kansas Jayhawks will host number 3 Iowa State in the Phog. This is a huge matchup as far as it goes for the Big 12. Now the Big 12, as we said, is the best top to bottom league in the country. They have the best talent 1 through 16. I mean, 16 might be Cincinnati, seriously, and since Cincinnati has good talent. The issue now is for Kansas, we're not exactly sure how good they are. Now, they're ranked 23rd in KenPom, which is nice, which means you're comfortably a tournament team. However, you can't keep losing. And the fact of the matter is, you just lost at West Virginia. TCU took you at home to overtime just the other week. They should have won that game. Iowa State is better than TCU, so how does Kansas beat Iowa State? Well, the clothes need to be a little bit cold from 3. If the clothes aren't a little bit cold from 3, then even Arizona would struggle with Iowa State. However, the Phog Allen needs to prove its magic a little bit here. It used to be a magical place. It used to be a mystical place. It used to scare opponents coming in. I don't think it scares anybody right now. You know what would scare some people? Number 3 Iowa State. Number 3 undefeated Iowa State losing. Now they might. I go off of the KenPom rankings. KenPom rankings, as you can see. Ignore the spelling. I typed that on a computer without spell check, and so some things are going to be misspelled. That's fine. This is a light rundown here. I mostly do the talking. I don't script my entire show. I'm not Joel Klatt, okay? Okay? Hashtag Nate State Army. Join us. And yes, I'm aware my on-air sign isn't on. It kind of looks bad if it is. It just looks like air, doesn't it? I mean, maybe if we became Superman on air. Okay, we're too much goofing around. Not that anybody's watching anyway. I mean, you guys are viewers, whatever. We win these. Okay. Clones, bottom line is they should win. But how does Iowa State win if they don't particularly shoot 3 well? Well, first thing they need to do is keep big man Blake Buchanan out of foul trouble. Something he struggles with. But they can help bail him out here by letting Kansas take minis. They need to make Kansas become a mini committee. And what I mean by that is Kansas is going to want to shoot the 3, or they're going to want to drive the lane, get in, crash the boards. That's going to cause fouls. Letting them shoot 3s, they could get on fire. They're playing at home. They can beat you that way. Crashing the boards could be into foul trouble. Kansas can grind out that way. If they can kind of keep Kansas in the mid-range, even if Kansas shoots well in the mid-range, Iowa State's likely to win. Because Iowa State, and this is so wild to be saying, this is crazy to be saying, but Iowa State, from man 1 through man 8, who are playing on the floor, stacking up against Kansas man 1 through man 8, even if Darren Peterson is playing for the Jayhawks, I like Iowa State's talent better. Iowa State isn't winning because, boy, they're a group of brothers who love each other and the power of friendship. No. Iowa State is winning because they are awesome at basketball. Their players are so good at basketball. And yes, they play as a team very well. Yes, they are excellently coached. Yes, Momcilovic is probably the best three-point shooter in the country. Yes, and yes, he's tall as well. I mean, he's the whole package. Yes, Iowa State has better talent, in my opinion, than Kansas, even if the recruiting sites Might not say so, just because they have better seniors and whatever. But I think Iowa State man 1 through man 8, who will be playing, better than Kansas. Now, if you want to talk man 1 through man 15, then you might give the edge to Kansas. But I digress. So Kansas really just needs their home crowd to show up. Can the fog make the difference here in this one? I'd say that's a big ask for a crowd to be doing. I think the difference between that one and the Seton Hall or Louisville games, UVA and Louisville are very closely personnel matched. UConn and Seton Hall aren't very well personnel matched, but Seton Hall's play style is a good mix against UConn's play style, which is how they won last year. They're going to be able to grind UConn to a halt, in my opinion. I think Iowa State just sprints past Kansas. I don't think Kansas is going to be able to hold it close here. Maybe for the first half, but once that second half hits, boy oh boy, you're going to see Iowa State wake up. I think you're going to see Iowa State win. Give me the Clones in that one. Probably give me the Clones with their spread too. And again, don't particularly endorse sports betting. I won't be actually betting $1 on any of these games, but I think it's fun to just track what you think Vegas is doing, try to beat Vegas. Fun in my eyes. All right, so we're going to touch on some other college basketball matchups. Michigan State and Indiana. Michigan State needs some more wins. Their only losses to Duke and Nebraska. Those two teams, I believe, are like a combined 32-1 or something. So, not the worst two losses there for the Spartans. But you'd like to see a few more bigger wins on their resume, or at least decent, late quad 1, early quad 2 wins, just for a little bit of a resume builder, just to help them when they're getting in a 3 seed or a 2 seed discussions in March. Because I don't think they'll be able to crack to a 1 seed unless they get some help in front of them. But obviously, I think a 2 seed is very much in reach, even a high 2 seed. So I think that's what Michigan State at this point in the season needs to be striving for, as well as a Big Ten title, which feels a little bit more open. And to do that, you got to beat a team like Indiana. Now, Indiana, quite frankly, needed to win that game against Nebraska. I mean, you had a huge second half lead. I think it was 13 points. Let it slip away. Now, Indiana, not way out of this. Look, here, Michigan State is 13. Indiana is 27 on KenPom. Now, KenPom isn't the end-all, be-all. However, I think it's a good predictor of what might happen. And it says here on KenPom that Michigan State is only about 5 points better, 5.5 points better than Indiana. Indiana can absolutely keep this close from a personnel perspective. The issue now being is I just don't know if Indiana has the mentals. I haven't seen Indiana be able to play tough enough ball to be able to beat an Izzo coach team for 40 minutes on end. So Indiana has got to, a lead helps because Michigan State isn't equipped to really come back from too far behind. Like maybe Nebraska's a little bit more equipped, but I just don't know where Indiana's mental state is going to be. So Indiana's got to keep this close throughout and just gain confidence through the game, I think, if they're going to beat the Spartans. The issue being is I think Izzo is a far better coach than DeVries. And DeVries is good. I mean, he led Drake to an MVC title. But if you remember in that game, Drake then played under DeVries in the NCAA tournament. They had that lead against Miami. They had, I think, a pretty sizable one. It was, 10, 12 points. And then they let it slip away. And I honestly think that could be a pretty good indicator of that DeVries is, while a very good schematic coach, and a good enough schematic coach to make him hang with Michigan State, I just don't see the mental state being there for Indiana. Now, if they want to get mad at me, please don't, because I'm about to give your football team a beautiful review here. So Indiana fans, hold off. Now, if and he won't be watching this. But if DeVries wants to get mad at me, please, 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 go ahead. But you're wasting your time. Until I see it, that's my opinion. Prove me wrong. Next, we're going to hop on is this Wednesday matchup, Duke at California. Now, this is not particularly interesting. Duke's way better. They should win. But they're also playing at 11 o'clock Eastern time on the West Coast after a long flight. Very interested to see how the Blue Devils come out, because oftentimes when we see this is we just see some of these talent not be cohesive after these long flights. And that's an issue inherently. I'm curious to see if Duke comes out that way. But again, Cal should lose. This game shouldn't be particularly close. Next Drake coach was the next coach at Drake is now at Iowa. And he brought Bennett Sturts along with him. Now Sturts has had a little bit more of an issue the last two games after a great start to the year. And Iowa is ranked 21st in KenPom. They're 12-4, but they still need a big win. What better way to get a big win than going into the number 4 team in the country at Purdue, per KenPom, and beating them? Now, the fact of the matter is, Purdue is an 8-point KenPom favorite. With home court advantage, that's probably going to be closer to 10, 12, 13 points. That's a tall ask. Bennett Sturts has to play his best. He hasn't played his best the last 2 games. It's got to be very good Bennett Sturts. And Iowa's going to have to slow the game down. Now, Drake was very good at that last year. And I believe Iowa can definitely do that this year. But it's going to be hard because the crowd will definitely alter this game a little bit. Iowa will want to play fast, but they gotta slow down, they gotta concentrate, they gotta focus on themselves, not worry about Purdue. Purdue is gonna have theirs. Iowa's gotta limit it. Iowa, if they're gonna win this game, needs to keep Purdue under 70. They need a 67, 64 type win here. That's Iowa's path to victory. It's a thin margin. It's not a huge margin. It's going to be a tough path to follow. But I think Ben McCollum and the Hawkeyes can potentially do it. And Purdue sometimes just gets tight. So Iowa's got to just keep it close. Keep it close should be the Hawkeye mantra. All right. The SEC has an issue. And we're going to touch on this more in depth likely next week because they got some more big matchups against each other coming into this week. But I just don't see where this SEC depth this year is coming on. Their best team currently is Vanderbilt. I don't think that scares anybody too much. The next best team is Florida, who was the national champion last year, and returns only a couple pieces from that year. Hasn't particularly added too much, honestly. And, you know, they already have 5 losses. And Todd Golden's a very good coach. And he's a national championship winning coach. But Florida also just doesn't scare me as much as maybe they did last year. They were my national champion pick. So I'm going to need to see more. Tennessee's there, but Florida just dog walked them. Alabama's there. They have 5 losses. They just lost to Texas. Their offense is good, but they can't stop anybody again. Kentucky's not good. They're all the way down at 26. They're... and the eye test says they're worse. Certainly. The SEC has a depth problem. But worse than that, they have a top flight problem. Their best team this year, again, is Vanderbilt. Does that scare you? Look me dead in the eyes and says, Vanderbilt basketball terrifies me. I don't think you can. I don't know if that's... I don't think that's just historical bias. Who is Vanderbilt's big, huge time win this year? St. Mary's? South Carolina? LSU? Are any of those teams making the tournament? I just got to be frank with you. Look, Vanderbilt is undefeated. They have earned undefeated status. They have earned undefeated respect. I think based on what they've done, they should be a top 4 or 5 team in the country. They're not in the AP poll for some reason, but they should be. How long can Vanderbilt keep this up? How long can they keep extending this win streak? Because honestly, their ranking is fueled by wins, not by exact substantiation. Now, they did beat Alabama. I'll give them that. They beat Alabama at home. I believe that was last Wednesday. That's a good win. That's a good win for the SEC. But let's just read through their schedule. Okay, they're at Texas. They host Florida. That's big. They go to Arkansas. That's big. After that, at Mississippi State, home Kentucky, at Ole Miss, home Oklahoma, at Auburn, home Texas A&M, at Missouri, home Tennessee, home Georgia, at Kentucky, home Ole Miss, at Tennessee. Out of those matchups, you know how many are ranked? 4. 4. 2 of them are against the same team, and Tennessee is only ranked 24. So the SEC clearly has a depth problem, but they also have a top flight problem. I just don't see where the SEC gets all their bids this year. And shocking as it sounds, after getting 14 bids last year, I would believe that number could be conceivably cut in half this year. Then that would be a massive failure for the Southeastern Conference. Now, we'll see how it shakes out, and we'll discuss this further in the upcoming weeks. But, I mean, what are we doing here, SEC? And they're going to cannibalize themselves. They always do. But they just don't have that non-conference backing that they usually do, or say that they do, as we always like to say. Another hypothetical win for the SEC. They don't have that this year, and they aren't proving it on the eye test. And those two things combined mean the SEC is going to struggle to get bids unless the committee loves them for some reason, which may happen. But I have my doubts. Again, we'll touch on this more next Monday. So let's move on and let's hit on the College Football National Championship game between the U and IU. All right, let's face the facts. This is a national championship game. Nobody saw it coming. Preseason, Miami was 10. And, 10, good. Miami finished the season 10, so they met expectations, quite frankly, but expectations are then to get bounced in the first round of the playoff on the road. And a lot of people did think they would be, including myself. I was the preeminent Miami hater during the regular season. I didn't believe in them at all. And I still don't believe in them, quite frankly. I don't think they got lucky. I think they have proved their mettle. I think they've proved they're a good team. But I have picked against them every single game, pretty much this entire year. And I'm going to pick against them now, frankly, and I'll explain why in a minute here. But I'm going to give them their flowers first. Beck has been a great addition. Unquestionably. Mario Cristobal has coached that team quite well. And I do shudder to say that a little bit because I don't think he's a great coach. But he has proved that he's at least a good coach now. And I'll give him his flowers there. That offensive line, one of the best units in the country. Mark Fletcher, Malachi Tony is going to be an NFL player. He looks better than Jeremiah Smith somehow. And he certainly looks better than Ryan Williams. NFL dude, right now. Can say it, can see it. Just keep working on yourself there, young man. I can say that because he's younger than me, for the record. Here's my issue. Miami's defense has been good this year, save for one aspect. Their pass defense is ranked 38th, which is good, top third. But what if Mendoza comes absolutely fired up? And here's why I say he will. Mendoza is from Miami. Mendoza grew up in Miami. Mendoza played Miami high school football, and Miami didn't offer him nothing. Crickets. Mendoza thought about going to Miami in the portal. It seemed like Miami turned him down more than he turned Miami down. This is a revenge game from Fernando Mendoza. And normally that'd make me a little bit nervous. But not here. Because anytime Mendoza's been questioned, has he ever stepped up to the spotlight? And against a Canes defense that has shown its holes, especially in the secondary, against a team that really just doesn't make offensive mistakes, I think Indiana kind of done toasts them. I think Indiana, everybody's expecting a heavy dose on the ground. Indiana's going to run the ball. They're going to establish the rock. I would think Indiana might throw the ball more than you think. I think they might throw it over the yard a little bit. And I think Indiana is going to take advantage of these holes. Right now. What is it Central Time? I believe it's 11:30 Central Time, p.m. I bet Curt Cignetti's grinding tape. Maybe with some coaches, maybe with some popcorn, maybe with some pizza. I don't know what they eat. But I know they're grinding tape right now. I know they're picking apart this Miami Hurricane secondary. I know they're making Fernando Mendoza the best Fernando Mendoza he has been. And they're going to make him this whole high. He didn't deserve the Heisman. They're going to make him that silly here in this national championship game. Miami's only hope is to control clock. And they did that effectively against Ohio State. And they did that effectively against Ole Miss. And they did that uber effectively against Texas A&M. And they're going to control the clock in this game too. But Indiana, not because Indiana is basically because Indiana's going to let them. Indiana's going to let them get to their 50. And then they're going to stuff them and force them to punt. And it's going to go right down the field. And it'll be a wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat, until we look up. And there's 8 minutes left in the third quarter, and Indiana's just scored another touchdown to go ahead, 35-7. At that point, it's just milk from there on out. Indiana's better. Indiana's the best. Indiana's going to win the national championship game. And I am very confident in that fact. I have it down 42-14. Book it now. I know it's Miami's home stadium. I know Miami crowd's probably going to be the more preeminent team. Indiana's done great on the road this year, too. This is the Hoosiers' time. This is the Hoosiers' story. And this will be the Hoosiers' national championship. So let's finish off here with some NFL. We already discussed the Saturday games on the Saturday show, so we won't get into those too much. And the Monday game, I haven't finished watching that yet. I went live before I could do that. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but it sure looked like Aaron Rodgers was an unk. So that's why we have the headline up here. Aaron Rodgers is an unk. Also, the NBA sucks because this is true. Just to keep up with it, I watched those worst in. If you miss what happened in the NBA today, I got you. And I might do that for college basketball one of these days because I think it'd be funny. But that's about all the NBA can handle because, boy, it is tough to watch. It's a bad product right now. And it might be rigged, too, quite frankly. So the NFL, playoff Josh Allen is inevitable. The Jaguars were the latest team to find that out. And I'm starting to become worried. And I like the Broncos quite a bit. I'm the only person who feels high on the Broncos at all this year. But he was so banged up that whole game, and it just didn't really matter at all. And I'm starting to be concerned that it just might not matter for any team. Maybe this is Josh Allen's march into inevitability. Maybe this is Josh Allen's slow march towards the Super Bowl. Maybe that Bills defense is just good enough to be able to just drag him over the edge. Because, I mean, this man in the playoffs is insane. That throw off his back foot, 40 yards in the air, insane. And the Jaguars were really good. I mean, the Jaguars could have gone to the Super Bowl. But Josh Allen, man, different level. Different level. Not a different level, Justin Herbert. And now I'm not a Herbert guy at all. I think Ocho was spot on when he said a couple years ago he's a social media quarterback. Kind of went into hiding after that take, not gonna lie, but I think it's the true facts of the matter. So the issue is Herbert doesn't exactly show up sometimes. And I know Herbert's offensive line is horribly banged up. But I mean, he was missing open guys. And the scheme didn't even seem so bad. I mean, Greg Roman didn't call a perfect game. Or even maybe a good game, but he didn't call a 3-point type of bad game. He didn't call a game where you get inside the 10 twice and not even really close to the end zone. Didn't really even feel close to the end zone. I was very impressed by the Chargers defense. They kept them in it for sure. But I mean, they just fell way short. That was 16-3, and it felt more of a blowout than that even. From the Patriots side, Drake May is the truth. That Drake May Josh Allen rivalry to come, I think that might have a good shot at being the best division rivalry in the NFL this next couple of years. Certainly from a quarterback's perspective, I think we're going to look forward to those two games every year from here on out. Vrabel's a great coach. The Patriots are a real threat to go to the Super Bowl, which is both a funny and terrifying thought to say all at the same time. You know, the Patriots are a great story. They're such a great story, and yet it feels almost wrong because the Patriots had the dynasty all those years. But it's true. And honestly, if you're rooting against the Patriots because they're the Patriots, you need to stop and reevaluate. Unless you're an AFC East fan, in that case, no, please go ahead, hate all you want. But stop and reevaluate because this is a likable team. Drake May just seems like a good dude in general. Mike Vrabel, well coached. The players are disciplined. They love each other. They play for each other. They're generally pretty exciting. I know that Sunday night game wasn't that exciting, but the Patriots saw how they had to win, and they followed that formula perfectly. And so I think it's easy to say, oh, I don't want to see New England win. We already saw New England win all those 20 years we saw New England win. But this isn't the same New England team whatsoever. This is a whole new team. It's a whole new identity. And other than the owner, it's a pretty much entirely different franchise from what it was 7 years ago. And I think we need to recognize that for what it is. And, you don't have to root for New England, but I would request kindly that we don't hate on them just yet. That would be my plea to the NFL fans. And I'm not a New England fan at all. I'm a Washington Commanders fan. We had a tough year this year. I was a Chief Patriot hater. I mean, now I'm a Chief hater, I guess. But I was chief among the Patriot haters, I guess is what I was trying to say. And now we just need to cool our jets on that. Because they were the more likable team last night. And they're a likable team going into the future here of the playoffs. And they'll host either Pittsburgh or Houston here, and I'll be cheering for them, certainly, in this next round. And let's just touch on Philly here. Actually, let's talk Niners first. Winners get to talk first. Very impressed with this win. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best players in football. And if he gets a ring, he needs to certainly enter one of the better players in football history discussion. Um, he led Stanford to a Rose Bowl all those years ago. And now we'll look at it, and I think it's pretty safe to say McCaffrey is one of the best players in the NFL. Obviously the health concerns are an issue, but it feels like this year everybody but McCaffrey is injured for the 49ers. And yet they've just kept on plugging. And he's been such a good workhorse for them. He's one of the best receivers in the league, which makes no sense because he's a running back. I think there's a great argument that he's the best slot receiver in the league, which, I mean, again, he's a running back. So, he dragged them to victory, quite frankly, there. And he didn't even run the ball all that effectively, but he dragged them to victory. And the Niners were the better team on the field in that fourth quarter and also the first quarter. And if you win the first quarter and you win the fourth quarter, as long as you don't get blown out in quarter 2 and 3, you're good. And here is where we come to the issue. The Eagles should have blown them out in quarters 2 and 3. The Niners were not moving the ball really whatsoever. And the Eagles were given pretty much every opportunity to take a large lead, take a commanding lead. And they just couldn't do it. The offensive play calling was weak. The blocking schemes were bad. And A.J. Brown just kept dropping the ball. And Devontae Smith didn't play his best game either. Now he looked a little hurt in the out there, but everybody's a little bit hurt. It's January. It's the NFL. It's game 18 for most of these guys. So the Eagles need to fire Patullo. I thought so before the game. I know so now. That 4th and 11 play call where we only had 4 people back. He dropped a max protect against a team that wasn't even blitzing. And it was just a disaster all around. Hurts has no confidence left. Eagles were bad, and they deserve to be out of the playoffs. That's the bottom line. So congrats to the Niners. Niners, Bills, Patriots all move on from yesterday. So thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you Thursday, kind of a podcast-only version of the show. Very excited to release that. We'll kind of be reacting to the Tuesday action from this college basketball slate. And we'll be previewing the Saturday slate for college basketball, as well as doing a quick NFL check. So that's coming up on the Thursday program. May join you again Saturday night, probably. We'll leave it again till Monday on the streaming side of things. We'll see you then. Thank you for joining the second ever edition of the Nate State Show. Please join the Nate State Army. You can follow us at Nate State Show on X, at Nate State U on X, and Nate State on YouTube, where you find this stream. The stream will be recorded as a restream here in just a couple minutes. That'll be going up. Sorry for any audio issues. Those are being hammered out currently right now in my limited time to fix those. That is what I'm working on right now. So we'll actually get the audio issues up and running, and then we'll be a full-on show, won't we? So thank you for joining here on this Monday evening into, I guess, on the east into Tuesday morning. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I'll talk to you on the podcast Thursday. See you then.